This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN. I have a very cool looking gad on my screen, repping the Terrace Cult early this morning. It is Tuesday, the 25th of June, and I believe, Gareth, whenever we do Zooms, I'm usually moaning about the weather that we've come back to, usually from the Middle East, but we have 26 degrees sun today. England are playing. It feels like it's going to be a good day. You share the same thought?
Oh yeah, the weather's beautiful at the moment. I'm working, paddling, and cycling every day at the moment, so it's beautiful, absolutely stunning. Um, and like you say, it'd be nice and quiet later when I go out cycling because everyone will be watching the football.
What's been occurring in your life over the last week since we last caught up, Gareth?
I'm writing a few essays for a book that I'm doing called Call of the Warrior. Um, 28 boxers and promoters. Um, Did a little show with Box Nation. That was fun. Ryan Farag and KZ Kademi. York Hall, Bethnal Green. It's a quiet time in the sport at the moment. I say quiet. It's not really that quiet.
It's
There's
just
shows every week.
quieter on the madness, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you've been on the road week after week after week, and on a personal level, it slows down a little bit. It doesn't really slow down at all. It's a really, really busy time for boxing, and it will be tomorrow, indeed, which no doubt we'll touch on. But um, yeah, it's the weather being amazing and being warm. I never ever worry about or complain about because I much prefer it to the. I'm an outdoor person and I love it absolutely. You know, like you, I like to go and do my exercise outdoors, and no doubt you're running at the moment,
I'm
enjoying that.
literally, I was thinking the minute this finishes, if I have time, I might have to wait for my next call afterwards, but I'm definitely going to run before it gets too hot.
Get on it, get on it. Great stuff. That's what you should feel as a human being. You should want to get out there and experience that sunlight on your skin, on your face, and it is very very motivating. I mean, even when we were in the Middle East for those 3 weeks, um, I just found even though it was 45 degrees, it's still lovely being outside in it for
Yeah, I was
30
going to
minutes or
say it's
40
better,
minutes.
isn't it, when you wake up in the morning and you open the window and the sun's shining, and do you know what I mean, gives you that spring in your step.
Definitely, definitely. And you've clearly got spring in your step this morning, even though it's early. I've made you do this early.
Yeah, I've got a spring in my step indeed, Gareth. We're up ready to attack the day. Let's attack the interview. Let's go straight into it. Off the back of Denny-Cash, and a great little co-main event in Lewis Crocker and Connor Walker, which was an absolute war. I had Connor on the phone to me last night, enjoying his holiday, asking if he can speak to Big John. Um, it was a great little card, and obviously the first time Shalom and Hearn spoke to each other.
Quite extraordinary that they've never spoken to each other, really.
Do you know
Uh,
that the first conversation they had was recorded on the Stomping Ground, Gareth?
there you go. You've marked history there. So hopefully some great things will come out of it. I mean, I know that Ben Shalom meets regularly with Frank Smith and George Warren. They have kind of every couple they were meeting, to discuss not overlapping big fights, which is always sensible. But it's great to see. Eddie had a little dig at him, I think, didn't he?
Yes, yeah.
They'll stop and have a drive through McDonald's on the way back or something. Was that with you?
No, in my one, he sort of made a little purse bid dig because when I said to Ben, was it nice to sort of work together for this fight and come down? And Eddie said it was nice for Ben to actually allow a purse bid to happen. And so,
Look, Eddie can't help himself at times. There's no need for it, but it's rivalry. It's simple as that. But it is great to see them together. I agree with you. Tyler Denny looks better and better. Um, quite like to see him fight Hamza Shiraz. I think that's a great matchup. Different sizes, of course. Hamza's always a huge middleweight. Um, but let's see what happens with that. No doubt we'll come on to it. Great performance by Tyler Denny. He looks better and better. He's one of those guys that improves with every fight, and he's really in a purple patch at the moment. Quite like to see him in with Hamza Shiraz. I think that's a great fight. But I thought Felix Cash looked like he'd been out since December 2022. He looked off the pace. He fought the wrong type of fight. He allowed Tyler Denny to get in early, where he could have kept it long, in my view. And it was a shame about the head clash, which if it was a head clash, some people believe it's a punch. It was a punch. But Tyler Denny thoroughly deserved his victory. He's a triumph for Ben Shalom. And as you say, Conor Walker put up a very, I mean, some people are arguing that he won the fight. I didn't think he did. I thought Lewis Crocker deserved the victory. And again, Lewis Crocker, I'd love to see in an all-Irish clash with Paddy Donovan now, who is obviously there as well. That's a really good fight. Both of those two ranked with two of the sanctioning bodies in the top 15. So some good things to come out of the weekend, out of the Birmingham Resorts World Resorts card. But there's bigger events coming. But it was a really good event, and like you say, the fulcrum of Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn meeting again is a good sign for the ongoing talks.
I sort of wanted to pick up on that because I suppose it's interesting looking at the landscape over the last 2 to 3 years as such. And I remember, it would often be me in this situation. Oh, Eddie Hearn said this about Frank Warren, vice versa. Still a little bit been the case between everyone else and Boxer. We know Frank Warren's had a couple of digs at Ben, Eddie, and Frank, but Ben himself very complimentary on the night of Matchroom and the treatment. And you almost get the idea that maybe now that's out the way and there's a matter of, okay, right, he's gone to a show on away territory and stuff that on all sides, and I'm not saying it's Boxer's fault, Matchroom's fault, Queensbury's fault, whatever, that there seems to be now, right, that sort of feeling in the air of, okay, it's not that bad. Let's work together where we can. It doesn't mean for every fight or whatever, but sort of that sort of incline to be a bit more cooperative, do you feel?
No question, and it's borne out. I think it's out there already. Joshua Boazzi and Willie Hutchinson signed, and that's a cross promotion as well, isn't it? Joshua Boazzi is with Ben Shalom now, with Boxer. So, I mean, I think that story broke a couple of days ago, didn't it? That was signed. So,
Yeah.
And more to come on that tomorrow, I suspect. It's good. It's really good signs, because I think we've wanted this for a very long time, where promoters give up the option of having it on their broadcast channel, and they have the fight on someone else's broadcast channel, but it works for the boxer. And then if it works for the boxer as an away fighter, it's quids in, and it resonates. And the triumph of Tyler Denny on Saturday was a triumph for Ben Shalom as well, and it was visible in the interviews he gave. He was absolutely made up over it. So yeah, you as Eddie was saying with his advice to Ben Shalom, if you've got a fighter and you're backing him, take the risk. Take the risk. Go as the away fighter. But we don't know what kind of constraints are on Ben Shalom with his stable and Sky as well. So hopefully that loosens up, because it's only good for the sport.
Well, Gareth, a topic we'll have to tread sensitively on because we don't know too much, but it was revealed on Saturday night that just hours before Akib Fiaz versus Kane Baker 2 would be cancelled. Now, at the end of the night, it was then confirmed that there were betting irregularities.
Yeah.
And some sort of suspicious stuff that was brought to Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith's attention by the Gambling Commission and the British Boxing Board of Control. We now understand that is in an independent investigation of its own. Eddie said in his 14 years or however long, he'd never experienced anything like it at all. Not just so close to the fight, just in general. What do you make of it all?
Well, we have to, like you say, we have to tread carefully, because it is an investigation. What we understand is, and we've seen the comments from Kane Baker, that there was a suggestion that from Akib Fiaz is a member of Akib Fiaz's team that he. But basically, the suggestion being made is that one of the boxers was asked to fix the fight. And we can't have it in boxing. And it's praise to both boxers that they brought this up and highlighted it to a trainer who then told Eddie Hearn, who told the board, and it was dealt with very quickly. And they said, look, we've got to pull the fight. I don't think either boxer's at fault here. I think they'll find that. They did the right thing, and the right thing happened. And I don't want to go into it into too much depth because it is an investigation. I don't know all the details. But the right thing happened in that there was a sequence of information passed along to people. It looks like people were trying to influence the bout. They haven't been able to in the end. And both boxers put their hands up and said, there's something odd going on here. I'm not having it. Thank God they told others about it. I know Kane Baker very well. I don't know Fiaz particularly well. And as his statement said, he came out with a very clean statement, a very lucid statement. I mean, a very clear statement that he would never bet on himself to lose anyway. He would only bet on himself to win, and that he had been approached, or a member of his team had been approached, saying that there was something going on in the background. And the fact they highlighted it, Charlie, is great because it just means the boxers did the right thing. I remember there was in 2020 there were betting irregularities around Dave Allen and Dorian Darch, where Darch went
I
down.
remember that. Yeah.
But I don't think anything came of that in the end, and both men were denying it at the time. There's no place for match fixing in boxing. We know that it went on deep in the past, and Jake LaMotta is one that's worth mentioning. He was asked to lose a fight and he got a world title fight 10 fights later. But we can't condone or even support any of that kind of stuff. It needs to be quashed. It's a very odd scenario, but I think that's about as much as I can say about it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I suppose looking forward to tomorrow, and it's quite funny really because every interview I do, whether it be with Frank, whether it be with Eddie, we know to expect Anthony Joshua versus Daniel.
And Julie Zhang, yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Who wins, Joshua or Zhang?
Joshua Zhang.
Well, I mean, listen, they might be throwing us a huge curveball. It could be Joseph Parker. Look, there's three viable opponents for me: Zhili Zhang, Joseph Parker, or Daniel Dubois. They're all viable. In many ways, Zhili Zhang and Joseph Parker deserve the shot more than Daniel Dubois.
I just think I remember going into God, it was Dubois Hergovich, wasn't it? And it was almost a matter of, well, if Wilder wins, they can do that at Wembley and get that fight on. And then if not, it almost felt like, okay, it would be Joshua Dubois for that vacant IBF title, or whether it ends up being the full belt by the time. And that sort of, and even in times I've spoke to certain parties' teams and they've, oh, what fight do you prefer, etc. But I think if we're being realistic,
Are you saying you've been asked advice on who it should be?
no, of course not. Do you think they'd come to me, Gareth?
Yeah, they would. No, I think no. I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you. I'm doing an Eddie Hearn on you there. No, they do. People do ask. The biggest fight is Joshua and Dubois. There's no question about it for the British public at Wembley. It would be a huge shock if Dubois won. It would be a huge shock to the system for the mainstream supporting public, because Anthony Joshua is still a huge draw with the mainstream public. I listened to him on Desert Island Discs a couple of days ago on Radio 4, and he was fantastic on that, talking about his experience in a darkened room and how he thought about family members, and he was very, very good on it. And I think this is a really, really big fight for Anthony. We say this every time he has a fight, but it's a really, really big fight for Anthony Joshua. Daniel Dubois has learned so much from his last 3 or 4 fights, particularly his last three. But he's also learned, I think, from the Joe Joyce fight, from the Usyk fight, from the Jarrell Miller fight, and obviously from the Filip Hrgovic fight just recently, because he's putting things together that weren't there before, or weren't there until he hit the juggernaut. He got hit by the juggernaut. But I think the question marks are really going to be around Anthony Joshua, and whether is he going to come in and be aggressive and take it away from Daniel Dubois. I mean, people like Tony Bellew are saying he thinks the fight won't last more than 2 rounds. I think it's a 7 or 8 round fight. I think it'll be. I do favour Joshua to win the fight, but I think there's extraordinary jeopardy from Daniel Dubois. He can't eat those right hands, I don't think, like he was
He also
against.
does start a little slow. Now, what I was thinking, and we've seen it in fights of Daniels before, is that sort of it takes, and even in the Hrgovic fight, it does take him a few rounds to get going.
Round 6.
Now we know Anthony Joshua is someone who, other than the Francis Ngannou early knockout, hasn't really put anyone to sleep early like he did in his first couple of fights when he was first a world champion. If AJ comes in here and sort of jumps on that as such, which we haven't seen as much part the Ngannou fight, that would be a real statement to the division, right?
Yeah, I think he might make a statement. I think it might be a statement anyway. I think he's got. I don't see a points decision. The trouble is when you say that, we might just get a 12 round.
Yeah, jab off.
Yeah, it might be a jab off, but I don't see it as that. Um, as you say, Daniel Dubois has this tendency to have a very strong engine burst, a turbo burst halfway through a fight. When he gets into it, he's awake. He's in the midst of the deep fight, and he comes alive. I don't think he'll have that time against Joshua. We know how Joshua will start. He'll start like that. He'll let his hands go. He'll be encouraged to break Dubois down. Lee Wiley, Ben Davies and Lee Wiley will know that Dubois is hittable, and they'll want Joshua to hit him very hard, very early, in my view, in the first 2 or 3 rounds of the fight, and that might dictate the tempo. Don Charles has been brilliant with Daniel Dubois as well, and he's going to say, go out there and fight fire with fire. This is the biggest opportunity you'll ever have in your life to make an enormous name for yourself. And if you can beat Anthony Joshua, you start to become a king of the division. You get the Usyk rematch. You might get the fight with Fury. You might get. There's so many things that can happen for him. All, of course, if they are announced as fighting each other tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. We're talking
I think we're heading to Wembley, aren't we, for it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Well, on the topic of AJ, there's been a good bit of PR last night. He's in talks to open a care home for retired boxers. That's good.
Yeah, he mentioned that on Desert Island Discs. I like that about him. And it's a very noble thing to do. I mean, one is needed. I think there's over 100 boxers in the UK, I think from memory, that need some kind of help who are retired. And it's, as I say, it's a very noble pursuit that to want to do that. Good stuff for Anthony Joshua. I don't even think it's. I mean, yeah, of course it's good PR. It's not negative PR, but it's.
No, of course he's not doing it for the PR purpose.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Of course.
Um,
Sorry, go on, Gareth.
no, but he's also got his work that he does with young people as well already, but where he's got a community officer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who it is. I've never met the person, but it's, again, he's a good guy, but he's not done. I'm accused of being very critical of Anthony Joshua. A lot of us are. I just want more from him all the time because he's such a special fighter and a special human being on a great journey.
Tyson Fury has done an interview.
Yeah.
I assume you've seen it. I'll just a couple of things that I'll pick out of it. He said that fighting Usyk was like fighting an amateur boxer. He felt that he won every round other than the knockdown in round 10, I believe. And going into the rematch, it's difficult for him because he doesn't believe he can get the decision and that he has to go in there and stop him. And that changes his mentality. What did you take away from the interview,
Yeah,
Gareth?
well, those are the three things that I don't agree with. But everything else in the interview, I got that he took a lot away from the first 6 or 7 rounds of the fight, and he should, because he was dominating at that point, in my view. He did get too comfortable in there. He did enjoy himself. He got a bit greedy. I mean, you can make the argument that he threw it away even from his side, certainly after round 6, 7. But then again, you've got to look at the brilliance of Usyk and what he did from that round onwards. I don't. What I do like is Fury having this very strong mindset about the return match, confidence in himself, talking himself up, and believing in himself. We've got to have a Fury who thinks like that. That is the way he should be thinking. There were a few swing rounds, so he's entitled to sit there and look at those rounds. The dominant Usyk rounds were 8 and 9. And you could say 10 and 11 as well. Although Fury fought back and recovered in 10, didn't he? Weirdly,
Yeah.
I gave Fury I gave Fury 6 rounds and Usyk 6 rounds with a 10-8. I think from memory, I think I'll give Usyk 1, Fury 2 to 6, Usyk the rest, the 9th the 10-8, and I gave the 12th to Fury and the rest to Usyk, which comes out, I think, computes to 114, 113 for Usyk. I said at the time I couldn't make a case for Fury winning the fight, even though it's a split decision. And if you recall, it was a split decision. So there were swing rounds there. I like the way Fury's talking. I like his confidence. But those 3 things you mentioned, I don't agree with. I don't think Usyk at all looked like an amateur boxer. I think Fury
And he
needs to.
can get the decision in a rematch. He just has to be.
I just think he's putting it out there. I just think he's giving himself every reason and every argument in his favour to make his case. What I liked about it overarchingly was his confidence about the second fight, and that's what you want from him.
Yeah. All right, Gareth. Well, just a couple more quick ones because I know that you're a busy man with lots of stuff to do. Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney has been turned into a no contest. Ryan Garcia has received a 1-year ban, backdated from when the fight happened. But since then, and I don't know how credible that is, I'll quickly get it up. But Ryan's put something out on Instagram saying that the New York State Commission are under fire. Oh, he's now deleted it. And it was regarding one of the tests being tampered with or initially testing negative or whatever. It still seems a little bit confusing. Devin Haney's now in a bit of a spat with Eddie in the WBC. It's all a complicated process. What's your thoughts on it,
Yeah,
Gareth?
well, Devin Haney first. He said he's taking a year out as well, and Puello has been installed as
Just seen that, yeah.
the interim champion, I think, and Devin Haney. There's no spat with the WBC because they've made him champion in recess. It's a plea bargain, which he's entitled to do. And Eddie Hearn was absolutely on the money when he said, "Look, you can't have it both ways. You can't be a free agent, but ask us to go and get involved in purse bids and bid tens of millions of dollars
For a fight that they don't.
for a fight that ultimately is not theirs."
Mm.
Or with a fighter that is now not theirs. Sorry. So they must be doing a fight by fight basis, are they? With
Yeah, yeah.
presumably. The Ryan Garcia situation was it was literally a plea bargain, wasn't it? In the end, they've taken the rap, they've taken the big fine. The 1-year ban. See, the thing is, both of these guys are pivotal in huge boxing in America, so no one really wants them to go away forever. The 1 year ban. What we need clarity on is whether there's. I think the document's out there. I haven't read it yet. Dan Rayfield has got the document. Dan Rayfield. Just, I think he's put out the statement, the behind the scenes statement from the New York State Athletic Commission. What I would say it's a plea bargain in terms of. I was just trying to pull it up here. I think to a certain extent they've accepted that he did find some evidence in his supplements for Ostrin. Whatever they've done with that, I don't know. But I think the key is they will fight again. And it'll be an even bigger fight. And I think it'll be in a year's time. And it'll be one of those enormous fights where Devin Haney will take the moral higher ground over what's happened and will accuse him of being a drugs cheat. And what mustn't happen this time, Garcia mustn't be allowed to go over the weight. He must make the weight. The fight being annulled, that's the New York State Athletic Commission flexing their legal muscles on it, and it's probably the right thing to do. He was overweight. He had Ostrin in his system twice, and however you look on it, that's a banned substance in his system. Even more than that, which we can't condone at all, and it needs to be condemned, is him not making the weight. And it looks like he took the gamble, wanted to be bigger, didn't want to cut those 3 pounds, and they clearly affected him in a very, very powerful way, and Devin Haney in an adverse way.
Just very quickly, we understand that on fight night he gambled a lot of money on himself to win by knockout. Now, obviously, sometimes passing everything, with the result turning into a no contest, a little bit different to, i.e., me and you, say we were to put a tenner on Ryan Garcia KO. We don't think anything would change there. This is more just me being curious now, Gareth. Will there be any backlash off that? Because obviously the betting companies who, I don't know, pay out 12 million or whatever on that 3 million bet for Ryan to win by KO are now going to be like, well, hold up.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a very good point. I hadn't thought about it. Well, it's a non-fight, so I don't know whether that equalizes the bet, and he gets his money back on the bet, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe just doesn't. I don't know. I don't bet on boxing ever, and personally, I don't think you should. Is my advice, because we shouldn't be looking at fights to be influenced by our.
No, I don't. But I
No, I'm just saying I don't. Whatever you do is up to you. But I don't know. It's a very good question. Was it 3 million he bet on himself?
It was a big figure. It was a big figure because I remember when it came out that I believe the return was a 7-figure number.
Well, he might have to give the money back then.
Yeah, and that's what I obviously slightly different that, if I were to load up Sky Bet and do it or whatever, but
that's a question we've got to ask Ryan Garcia, who's going to be who was in London recently and enjoying himself.
He was. I've not heard from Ryan since my Dubai trip.
No, I was invited out to his celebrations in London myself, but I was still out in.
God, I bet that would have been messy.
Only as messy as you and I going out, my friend.
Man like Gad, my brother. Right, Gareth, have a lovely day, mate. Final message to the people. We're positive. The weather's good.
Yeah. Peace out. Enjoy the weather.
Man like Gad, thank you very much for speaking to us at the Stomping Ground.